Welcome, everybody. You are listening to the Omnichannel Podcast, a podcast from digital marketers to digital marketers. I'm your host, Dominique Legrand, and my mission is to help fellow marketers and entrepreneurs to grow their businesses online. So buckle up and let's get started. Guys, I'm so excited to be having Wei on this episode, and I cannot wait for each and every one of you to listen to this episode. He has been offering super valuable information for every single one of you. We talked about how to pivot your business. We talked about how to organically generate leads and why it's an awesome way to test your offer first. We talked about the future of Facebook ads, and the one big mistake a lot of Facebook advertisements make when it comes to advertising. We also talked about a very underrated email marketing and how it is going to make a huge comeback, and many, many more interesting, insightful topics. So if you are interested, please keep on listening. Thank you so much for being here, Wayne. Lovely to have you.
Thanks for having me, Donnie.
So can you please tell me about how do you get started and how did you make that shift on your own business when you quit your job, and just tell us the story, tell us the listeners your story.
Well, a lot of people always ask me, they say, hey, you really took a big leap when you got out on your own, and how did you do it? And it's one of the biggest questions that I get from my friends and my old coworkers and things like that. And to put it bluntly, when I left my last job, it was back in 2016. I left that job with about $2,500 in the bank account, a pissed off wife, and a 2-year-old. Some people be like, man, you've got a lot of balls, but really, to be honest, I've got a lot of experience. I've been in digital marketing in one way, shape, or form since 2008. And what I did is I took the experience that I had and I applied it to real world situations. And the last job that I actually had was working at a solar company. And what I had done is I had taken their entire marketing department and I had kind of flipped it up on its head. So it's kind of a long story, but I'll condense it as much as I can. A lot of companies, especially large ones, they'll pay third-party lead generators for third-party leads. And that's what these companies were doing. And I came in and I said, hey, what are we doing? Like, we should be generating our own leads. It's a lot cheaper. It's a lot more cost effective. And within about a year of working with them, I had more than doubled their sales. In October of 2015, they had 2 sales guys running the leads that were coming from these third-party companies. And they had sold 10 of the packages that this company sold. The next month, they had sold 27.
Wow.
And that's just based off of the marketing that I did.
Wow.
I was like, hey, we're onto something here. We should be selling this to other companies. So we started doing that. And come to find out, when I had made that shift into selling it to other solar companies, he was paying me, or he was making more in 1 month than he was paying me in a year.
Yeah.
And so that kind of lit the fire under my ass. And I said, hey, I should be doing this for myself. And so I just left. And because I didn't have a budget to do any marketing myself, I just had to make things happen. I networked, I went to Chamber of Commerce, I cold called. And here's the thing about it is that for the first 6 months of your business, you really have to be all in. You have to grind, you have to make sure that you're 100% on the ball. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people miss is that once you get a little bit of a budget, or once you get a little bit of a following under you, you need to be able to turn that into leverage. And that's really the key that turned me from just being a freelancer into an actual agent. So by the time that I had done that 6 months, I was making about 10 grand a month. In San Diego, if you're making 10 grand a month, sure, that's fine, but you're paying your bills, but you're not doing anything else. It's expensive to live in California.
Yes, true.
Yeah. So what I did is I took that 10 grand a month and I invested it into a program that I felt really confident in. So
Oh, I know what program was that.
yeah, so you just find it that my biggest advice to people is take the money that you're making once you're comfortable and once you can pay the bills and make everybody in your family happy. Take that little bit of extra cash that you have and turn it into leverage. And the leverage that I found was this program that I invested in. And it taught me how to not only turn my audience into traffic and eyeballs onto my programs, but how to generate inbound leads. Because my wife and we'd stayed up all night at the point that I was making 10 grand. And I had created this program that I called Operation No More Cold Calls.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. You
yeah.
have to
So
tell me more about that as well.
yeah. Well, it's still up on my whiteboard. It was more of an idea than anything else. And Facebook was a stalker, and it literally took my conversation and it showed me ads that were related to my conversation somehow. But what ended up happening was instead of having to cold call, I built a funnel. I made inbound traffic. I paid Facebook and I paid Google some money to drive traffic to that funnel.
Mhm.
And I created a way for me to automate that inbound traffic into appointments.
Wow.
Not only did that turn my business into an automated process, but I didn't have to cold call anymore. To this day, I have not made a single cold call.
By the way, was that really hard to handle those rejections? Because I'm not sure if people like to be cold called on the phone these days.
Yes and no. The thing about it is that first marketing job that I had back in 2008, it was a lot of cold calling. So that's kind of my background, and so I'm used to it.
Yeah.
Um, Cold calling is not for everybody, but in today's day and age, there's a lot of ways to generate organic traffic.
Mhm.
For example, right now I have a VA that does organic outreach on LinkedIn and Facebook. So there's a lot of ways to do that as well. That is something that I highly suggest. If you're making under 20 grand a month, you don't need to be doing paid traffic. You don't,
Mhm.
not in today's day.
Yeah.
You can turn Facebook and LinkedIn into inbound sources as long as you have the time to leverage in regards to putting out the messaging and the content.
Mhm.
That being said, though, is that if you can pay Facebook a certain amount of budget, whatever you have, and drive that traffic to your funnel, and you construct that funnel correctly, you can wake up to 3 to 5 appointments every single day without making a single cold call, which is what I did.
Mhm.
Now, I told you it took me about 6 months to turn about a 10 grand profit, right, Nami?
Yeah.
I Once I created that inbound system and I used paid traffic,
Yes.
2 months later, I was at 30K.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what kind of leverage it takes to generate to get into actual business for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, Now, at the time, we were doing solar marketing, and we had done solar marketing all the way up until the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, at least in America, I don't know how it was everywhere else, but in America, solar companies weren't considered an essential industry for the first 2 months of the business.
Of course.
Okay, so that leads me into how to pivot your business, right? Um, Now it does take a little bit of a luck. It does take a little bit of luck, but what they say is luck is when prior preparation meets opportunity.
Yes, it's the slight edge.
Yeah, exactly. I read that book.
Me
It's
too. I
one of the
love it.
books.
I love it so
Yeah,
much.
love it. I actually just read that book not too often ago.
Yeah.
Anyways, so what ended up happening was, and this just happened randomly. I had a friend that I had met for lunch one day, and he said, "Hey, Wayne, I really don't know what you do." And he said, "I know it has to do with high ticket lead generation, and I know that you can generate 3 to 5 appointments a day just by
Mhm.
spending some money on Facebook ads." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, well, I have a friend that he's a coach. He sells a high ticket course, and he's really not happy with where he's at with his business, and he's not happy with the marketing company that he has. Can you talk to him?" So I ended up talking to him, and we just hit it off, and we ended up doing business together. This was probably a month or two before COVID hit.
Mhm.
Okay, this is where prior preparation meets opportunity.
Yes.
So COVID hits, solar companies aren't considered an essential industry, and we lose about 60% of our business overnight.
Wow.
Now, at the same time, this coach, I had turned his marketing around in 60 days.
Mm-hmm.
And he still to this day, he generates about a 6.1 ROAS.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, from what he does. And so I took that prior preparation and I turned it into an opportunity, and we shifted our business away from being a solar and roofing marketing
Mm-hmm.
company into being a high ticket coaching company. Okay. And then because we did so well with him, we got a referral to one of his friends. We built his entire program out. And then this guy, he generates about a 3 or 4, depending on what his offer is. We're still,
Mm-hmm.
we still work with him, and he's still working his programs out to this day, but he's kind of new into the coaching business. So again, just look at what you're doing, apply what you've done in the past to how you can leverage it in the future.
And
Okay.
that is how you pivot your business.
That's exactly how you pivot your business.
Yeah.
I've seen other guys do it, and they make way more money than I do. But the way that you make more money than what I do is you leverage other people's time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then that's where the VA comes in, and that's where that's where you have people kind of like manage the processes that you don't necessarily need to do on a high level. And that's actually one of the hardest things to do, in my opinion.
Do you mind sharing if you're still doing paid ads to drive traffic to your own business, or do you just solely rely on direct messaging on Facebook or LinkedIn prospecting with your VA?
We do both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I always start with organic, because the thing about organic is that the market's going to speak to you, and you're not going to end up wasting a bunch of money. The
That's
worst thing
true.
you can possibly do is create an offer that you think is going to kick ass, and then the market's like, no, that's not really the problem that we need solved.
Yeah.
So when it comes to being able to kind of scale things out, always start with organic, and always start by researching and talking to the people that are in the marketplace that you want to serve. And one of the biggest things that I've learned over the past year and a half since COVID started is the bigger the problem that you're solving, the more people are willing to pay for it. Okay. And everybody's always thinking about leads, 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 leads. Well, why do people want leads?
To make more money, to
Well,
have more.
yeah. And they want to have more conversations. The way they have more conversations, they have more appointments. Getting
Yes.
appointments is a bigger problem than getting leads.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay. And then getting sales is a bigger problem than getting appointments.
Oh my God. Can I ask this question? Because obviously I am in the same industry in a way that I also work with coaches all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And when the pandemic hit, some of the offline coaches had to migrate to the online space. And I've been working with coaches who have been successful over 20 years of coaching offline for businesses. And now they have to go online. The whole thing is just super overwhelming for them, right? And they don't know how to sell their own coaching. And even if they have the booked appointments, they are unable to turn them into actual paid customers. Do you have something that you suggest people to do, like your clients as well? I'm sure that's an issue as well.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I've seen people do, and for me personally, my clients are actually good salespeople, which is rare.
Yeah,
But
that's a really good one.
I know it's rare, so it's a good problem for me to have. But again, leverage other people's time. Find good salespeople, and don't pay the salespeople on just one sale commission.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the way that you find really, really good salespeople is you pay them not just on one sale, but on like a recurring. So what I find is that some of the best salespeople in the world, they look for jobs and sales opportunities that will pay them a little bit on that upfront sale, but then they'll also make residual month 2 and month 3, and then that way they can stack it and stack it and stack it. And then that
Mhm.
way all they have to do is sell 10 or 15 of these high ticket programs to make 6 figures a month or 6 figures a year.
Yeah.
Everybody's always looking, most salespeople are always looking for that $100,000 a year opportunity. That's
Mm.
really what that benchmark is. But go and leverage the good salespeople. And the one thing that I can tell you in regards to salespeople is monitor them. Put them on metrics. I can't remember what the software is right now, but there's a software that
That you can
and there's,
track what they do.
yeah, you can track what they do. You can track like every screen that they have, and it'll take like screenshots of their screen like every
Yeah,
3 minutes.
yeah, I know that. I'm familiar with that one. Yes.
Yeah. So because otherwise they slack off.
Mm.
They do. Take it from an ex-salesperson myself. If given half of an opportunity, I will get off my sales call and I'll go watch a half an hour of a TV show, or I don't know, play my guitar or whatever. So,
Okay.
yeah. So again, number one, leverage other people's time. Number two, don't just pay them on a single sale, pay them residuals as well. And then number three is monitor them, because
Monitor
otherwise,
them.
yeah, exactly.
I actually worked in sales as well. I worked for GE and I did like life sciences, and I had to call scientists to sell like very expensive lab equipment. So I
Oh, yeah.
knew my job at GE was eating ice cream and just not doing anything. And like have a few calls here and there.
Yeah. Oh, and then the other thing is too, is that have your sales team be fed inbounds, because I will tell you, as somebody that has both had to cold call and had inbounds, I always paid more attention to the inbounds. So once you build that system, that inbound system that generates you 3 to 5 appointments a day, okay, you're always going to want to be the number one salesperson and you only want to hire the salesperson after you get to the point where you're like, I can't do this anymore. I am overloaded. When you fall down at night into your pillow and you pass out and you don't wake up for 8 hours, and you and then you've got to drink 2 cups of coffee to
And
get
like
back.
one eye is twitching, right?
Yeah. Then that's when you want to hire the salespeople. And the thing about it too is that you only want to hire one salesperson until you're ready to scale the ad spend that feeds that inbound system.
Mm-hmm. So I was talking to someone who talks about as well optimizing your business, and she was saying that the last thing that you need to delegate is your sales calls, because no one is as enthusiastic about your business as you are. But I guess now we're talking about coaches that are generating leads, they have their booked calls, and when they show up to their own calls, it's obviously they don't know how to sell themselves necessarily. So I think that also requires initial training from your end to teach them how to close a sale. Because if you hire a salesperson to represent a coach, that's already a bit of an issue right there. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that you need to constantly be investing into yourself. Like me personally, I've probably invested at least, I've spent more on teaching myself how to run my business than I ever did on any college. And I spent 4 years in college.
And college is expensive there, right? For us,
Exactly.
it's free.
Yeah, yeah, college is expensive here in America. Luckily I have an advantage because I'm ex-military. I used to be in the Air Force, and before I got into marketing, I used to fix F-16s. Yeah, I ended up in marketing on accident, actually.
Mm.
That's a whole nother story in and of itself. When you fix F-16s, you can go into the civilian world here in America, and you can fix commercial airlines like United Airlines and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can make 6 figures coming straight out of the gates. And so when I went to college, I said, hey, how do I make the most money? And she said, well, you need to be an accountant. And I was like, oh, what? No, God. I said, okay, what's next?
Who said that to you? As a teacher?
No, it was the guidance counselor. where I physically where I was, they couldn't license me.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a geographic, it was like I said, it was an accident.
Yeah.
It was just where I was at the time. And so I said, well, if I can't fix planes, then how do I make the most money? And that's when she told me to be an accountant. And well, if you can't tell, I'm a very expressive and excitable individual. So accounting is
Yes.
definitely not where I need to be. And she said, well, if you don't want to be an accountant, then you should be in marketing. I was like, okay, well, then let's give that a try. And so I went and I got my marketing degree. And then that's when we moved, my wife and I moved down to San Diego. And that was, 2008. And here in America in 2008, the economy was in the trash.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was awful.
It was
And
shit.
so, it was total shit. And so I just took the first job that was offered to me. They hired me on the spot. And that was that first marketing job. And for the first 90 days of that job, I was going home to my wife saying, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm in over my head. And I don't know, about 90 days in, something just clicked. And here we are 12 years later.
You're still in marketing. And
Still
you're
in
crushing
marketing.
it.
Yeah, still in marketing. I mean, it's been a journey. Like I said, I'm lucky, and I'm lucky that I didn't get fired. I'm lucky that I ended up in San Diego. I'm lucky that I took the leap into entrepreneurship, and I'm lucky that I had the opportunity to work for that coach that gave me that opportunity right before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it takes determination. It takes stick-to-itiveness. It takes there's a saying, I actually have it written on my whiteboard. It says, fortune is built on the back of repetition, not the back of innovation.
Mm-hmm. That's so
So
true.
it is. So you have to keep at it. You have to keep doing it, and you have to do it over and over and over again. And at this point, I've spent millions of dollars, not just on Facebook, but on Google, on the native ads with Taboola and Outbrain. Obviously, Instagram is in the mix there as well. And it all works. You just have to do it.
Where do you think this whole industry is leading? Because obviously you are in a space that's constantly shifting, that's constantly changing. It is really not easy to keep up with the trends, right? We have TikTok, we have Instagram Reels. Like, where do you think this whole thing is going next? And do you think Facebook has still a chance to be an
Facebook's not going
effective
anywhere.
tool?
Facebook's not going anywhere. Not in a million years. Well, I mean, maybe in a million years, if you put it literally. But look, here's the thing. Facebook ads are where Google ads were about 5 or 10 years ago. And if you look at, like, everybody's like, hey, Google ads are more expensive. Well, yeah, because Google's been around longer. Okay. Facebook ads are the costs are going up. Okay. So what you have to be able to do as a media buyer and as a marketer and as an entrepreneur is be able to find ways to keep the costs lower than the cost of acquisition. And so many people, what they do is they only target the top 3% of their market. Mm-hmm. Everybody's after the lead or the conversion or the sale. And I don't care what you sell. You could be selling widgets. You could be selling spaceships. Okay. If you try to go after me and tell me, hey, buy my shiny stuff, buy my shiny stuff, buy my shiny stuff, then it's going to cost. That's why they say that ad costs are rising, is because 90% of advertisers are only going after that 3%. What you have to realize is that there's a whole bottom percent that they don't even know that if they have a problem. They don't even know if they want what you sell. They don't even know about what you sell. They don't know you from John. And what you have to do is you have to be able to raise awareness. Mm-hmm. And so as far as trends go, it's on the backs of the educators and the experts and the guys that have spent even more money on ads than I have, to educate people on the fact that they need to raise awareness before they ever even spend money on going after conversions. And so that's where I see the trends of the industry going, is looking at different ways to raise awareness, regardless of platform. Don't get me wrong, I love me some TikTok. I'm on it all the time, just goofing off. My wife and I were just laughing at something on TikTok the other day where it was a guy talking with his wife. I don't even remember what it was about, but literally we laughed for a good 5 minutes on it. So you've got to be able to, and I think now more than ever as well, people need humor. People need to laugh, because we've all been stuck indoors, and we've all, we're all deficient of vitamin D at this point. We need humor. We need laughter. We need to smile. And so if you can find a way to make people smile, raise awareness for your products or your services, and then like retarget those people, then go after them with the buy my shiny stuff thing, then you're going to win.
Yeah, I think you're right in the sense that, and I think we have this training in as well in our master class, that talks about the bottom funnel, the middle funnel, top funnel, and how to kind of dissect your messaging of, if you are targeting a cold audience, don't try to sell them the product right away, because chances are they're not going to buy from you because they don't even know who you are, right? I think
Exactly.
that's the mistake that you're making. They don't know
And
that.
that's what 90% of advertisers do today.
Yeah, it's insane.
So, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to be able to to be able to test. I hate that saying because it's so cliche. Everybody says, "Oh, well, you need to test." Yes, that's true, but stop telling everybody that that's what they need to do.
No, you do. And I
You do.
love when you said that you try organically before you hit the paid ads, right? Because that's really a way for you to test out if an idea works or not.
Yeah, it's something that I learned from one of my mentors. It's what he calls the research method.
Yeah, I did the same thing actually. But before we get into that, do you have something that you truly fucked up and when it comes to your marketing work?
Oh.
Tell me one fuck up, the biggest fuck up.
Okay. So yeah, all right. So this is actually it was a one-off client that I had a while back. I was working with an ecom client. It was a one product store that was designed. It was designed to help people without giving away too much, because I have an NDA with the client.
Okay.
Without giving away too much, it was designed to help with your athletic abilities. And one of the biggest things that I let go was I let a campaign go too long, because I believed that it would convert more frequently than it did. So what I mean by that is, if you're dealing with large budgets, we're talking like, 10 grand a day type of budgets.
Oh, wow.
Or more. You can't let these campaigns go on too long. And everybody's like, well, you need to give it time. I said, okay, well, I'll give it a few days. And it converted like a couple conversions in those few days. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I let it go a few more days and it didn't convert. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let it go a few more days, thinking that it would have those conversions, and it didn't. And needless to say, there was a few grand that didn't necessarily need to be spent, that should have been spent. So what I'm saying to you guys, if you're listening to this and you're a media buyer, make decisions and make them quickly and make them decisively, especially if you're dealing with large budgets. It was a very hard lesson that I had to learn, and thankfully this was a few years ago, and I don't need to learn it anymore. But at the end of the day, like there's a lot of gurus out there that'll tell you, hey, when you start a campaign, you need to let it run for at least 7 days.
Oh yeah, this is, everyone says that.
No, fuck no. if it's me or my VA, I tell my VA, if it's not converting within 48 to 72 hours, kill it.
Do you think that depends on the budget though? Because if you're burning 10K a day and it doesn't convert, obviously would not let it run for a week.
No, I have a client right now that only has a $1,500 a month budget, and we're spending about $35 a day on one of his campaign. And it's true on small budgets as well. If it doesn't convert on whatever you're optimizing that campaign for, if you're not converting or getting sales or getting video or getting views on whatever you're trying to do, and you're not getting that within 48 to 72 hours, kill it.
Okay. Well, that's good advice because yeah, I think we all been taught you let it run, the system has to learn, the learning period has to, be over. And then after that, and if it's still not working, and
that's the mistake people make though, is that the learning curve and the learning stage isn't dependent upon the amount of time, it's dependent upon the amount of conversions. And so if the amount of conversions aren't meeting the KPIs that you and your client have set forth, then you kill it. Bottom line is what I've learned.
Wow. Yeah, that's for me, that's news as well, because yeah, I've been taught, okay, you need to keep it running. It's, Facebook, it's a marathon. It's not a race. Have to give it time.
I mean, I've done it. I have tested this even in today. I have run low budget campaigns that I've let them run for 7 days, and I've let the same campaign run for 3 days. It happens 100% of the time.
Okay. Well, that's good advice. Do you have something else that you see that is a huge mistake or misconception that you kind of learned by your own practice as well?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Just people going after the kill right away is one of the biggest mistakes. Like a lot of the campaigns that we run today are based off of video views, and the part of the reason that we do this is because of the iOS 14 update.
Yeah.
Everybody's worried about tracking and building audiences and all this, and yada yada yada. Whereas if I put out a set of videos that are, let's say, 10 minutes long or 5 minutes long, and I have people watch 95% of that video, I know that they're interested in my product or my service.
Of course.
Okay. Here's the key. I'm not taking them off of Facebook. So I don't have to worry about my pixel or my conversion API.
Yeah.
And then I can build that audience. And as we all know, or anybody that spent more than $100 on Facebook ads, you can build an audience based off of people that have watched 95, 70.
Of course.
Yeah, you can build that audience. So if I spend, let's say, $5 a day on a series of 10 videos, and I see that people watch 95% or more of one video, I know that they're interested in the topic that's on that video and the problem that video is addressing. So I know to build more of that content. Okay. And then at the same time, I can also drive those people to my sales page. And those people are going to convert more consistently. They're going to convert more frequently, and they're going to convert cheaper for less money.
Yes, of course, because they already know the product. They're already familiar with the service.
Exactly. And especially in today's day and age, people need to trust.
Yeah.
People have trust issues because they've been burned. Everybody has a story about how they've been burned by a product or service. Everybody.
Yeah. And not only that, everybody's trying to sell you their service all the time. It's like people are getting desensitized at this point.
Exactly. And so one of the biggest things that I teach people is educate people, build authority, and then do all of that on Facebook or Instagram. You don't have to worry about tracking and the iOS update and Apple versus Android and all that complication. That's, when that whole thing happened with Apple, everybody lost their mind.
Yeah.
And it's because they're making that mistake of just driving the traffic off of, build the audience first. Build the audience first. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to solve all of your tracking issue problems. It's because it's not. But what you do know by keeping those people on the platforms and building that authority and building that content and building that trust is that you have an audience that is interested, captivated, and will trust that product or service.
Yeah, that's a really good advice. I think everybody is trying to get people into funnels and drive them off of Facebook and hoping for the best, right? Because once you are in the funnel, you kind of have to drop your email, right? And you, in order to look at the content. But if you are directly putting a video in front of someone and they watch the whole thing, then chances are that person is interested. Yeah, that's a really cool idea.
Oh, and then that's one more thing. Now that you say emails, hardly anybody I know is email marketing.
Yeah, I think I'm so done with that. I used to care more, but I'm like, at this point, I'm like,
it's a big mistake.
oh wow, really?
Yeah, here's why. Number one, if you have the email list, then you have their data.
Of course.
And those who own the data in today's day and age are going to win, because owning that data is going to allow you to make smarter decisions. And I actually myself even started cold email marketing.
Mm-hmm.
In the past 3 days, I haven't sent, my VA has sent about 1,000 emails. Hasn't cost me a dime, and I've generated 5 appointments for it. And then again, going back into being able to own the data, you can upload that data, as we know, into Facebook, create audiences,
Of
and then
course.
only
Yeah.
people,
Retarget them.
yeah, retarget them. So email marketing is something that I think is going to, and this is another trend as well, I think email marketing is going to make a big comeback.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I was sold like a course just by email marketing. They sold me a course, I think back in 2016. And that was like, wow, like that sequence that they built with the email marketing was like, holy shit, I'm buying this. I don't know what is it, but I'm buying it. And
it doesn't cost you a dime to do.
yeah, that's very
So
interesting.
just there's so many benefits to it, and that even I didn't even think about until recently.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it doesn't cost you a dime, because if you add that into your marketing, into your paid ads, into your all that other stuff that you do, just by being able to generate appointments and sales from that, you're automatically lowering your cost per acquisition.
Yeah, of course. So what would you
And,
suggest for
and
someone
so many
who's
people.
just starting out? Sorry.
So for somebody that's starting out, I would go back into the organic. I get a lot of value out of LinkedIn personally, but it's not for everybody. It's dependent upon your audience.
Mm-hmm.
I would start by doing something on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, depending on what your audience is.
Mm-hmm.
I would then start to build a list. I would do some email marketing based off of that list, and I would start putting out content every day.
Mm-hmm.
I got some really, really good advice from somebody that I really respect in the industry not too long ago. And it's about building out a content calendar. And so like I'm just gonna read this off. So like on Monday, he does a transformation post, like selling the transformation that his product provides. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, he does free trainings on how his service works. On Wednesday, he does a post that's challenging the limiting beliefs that prevent people from doing the posts or investing into his services. On Fridays, he'll do a testimonial. And then on Saturdays, he'll do like some sort of giveaway, like comment if you want
Like some kind of call to action, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So if I had to start all over and I didn't have everything that I've built already, I would start by either doing Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, depending on what my product or service is. I would put out content, and then I would build my email list. That's where I would start.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Okay, that way you don't have to cold call the way that I did back in 2016.
By the way, do you have a way to get your email list, like, or you just organically build yourself, Or do you get your email list from someone, or you just go to LinkedIn and scrape emails? I think there's a extension that you can scrape
Yeah,
emails.
there's a ton of ways to generate emails. There's D7 Lead Finder that you can
Yeah, I heard of that. Yeah.
yeah, it'll just build with D7 Lead Finder. What it does is it just gives you like a CSV and a bunch of data, and then you've got to use this tool called shoot, what's it? I think it's Clean Out. Yeah, Clean Out is like an app that you have, and then that'll translate all the data into actual like readable stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Put that into your CRM system, whether it be Go High Level or Close.io or Pipe Drive or whatever. There's a million CRM systems. There's no wrong answer when it comes to that. There's D7 Lead Finder. There's Lead Leaper, which you use when it comes to LinkedIn. It'll scrape emails from LinkedIn. There's a Google Chrome extension called Link Match that you can actually take your anybody that you are connected to on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
You can automatically put them into your database just by clicking one button. There's a ton of different ways.
Okay.
And if you're like super engaged with your audience and you do like a lot of Facebook connections and things like that, just message people and be really personable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, use your person. The thing that's a lost art in today's marketplace is actually talking to people. So many people don't want to talk to people. They just want to automate the process and, you know, again, go back into buy my shiny stuff. And it's while there's room for automations and there's definitely a place for it.
It's so interesting because what I did back in the days, that I had to think about 10 coaches getting in a call with me just because I reached out to them via, message. I did a post in a group and just asking for coaches and what industry they are in. And I immediately get 100 answers. And I just reached out to every single one of them.
Yeah.
And 10 out of 10 said yes. And the rest of them haven't seen their emails, right? Or the message I sent them. And getting into a call right away is so interesting. And my first approach was to just understand their why did they get into coaching, and if they have any issues with generating leads and how they're doing, and just understanding their frustration. And then after that, using those frustration and pitching that to a client who said, oh my God, that's my problem, I need your help. So that was just organic and it worked really, really well.
It's amazing, huh, Dummy?
Yeah. It works really well.
It's just, like I said, it's a lost art. So many people don't want to pick up the phone and so many people don't want to have a conversation. And if you do that, you'll be surprised at the response you get.
Especially, I think, on Facebook, because that's already a personalized connection. Like whenever you send someone a message and they accept to respond to your message, you can call them. You can call them on Facebook. Like you have the ability to call them, ring them up right away. And I had people I'm talking via Facebook calls as well.
Yeah, exactly. I've even gone so far as to, like, when I find like my perfect person, sometimes it happens to me every now and again where I come across this person, I'm like, oh my God, I want to work with this person. Right. A very, very effective method of gaining somebody's attention is to spend 2 or 3 minutes, go through their website, go through their social media, even at a very, very surface level, and say, hey, I was looking at this X, Y, and Z, and I noticed that you are doing this, and this really, really well. But I have clients that are also doing this, and I noticed you're not doing that. So I thought I'd reach out, send you a message, and just find out if you'd be willing to, sit down and have a 10-minute conversation with me. Record a video of that.
Wow.
And just send that into an organic message.
That's a Loom video, right? How cool.
Yeah, a Loom video. Yeah, you can do a Loom video and then send it via Facebook Messenger or the messenger on LinkedIn. That it takes time, and that's the key. That's what gets people's attention. they're like, hey, wait a minute, you took the time out of your day to pay attention to what I'm doing.
To gather intel on what you're doing.
It makes people feel heard. It makes people feel wanted. It makes people feel understood. And especially in today's day and age, that's really all people want.
So I think the moral of the story is to get really personal with people.
There's a fine line. There's a fine line between personalization and automation.
And what's the fine line? What do you think is the fine line?
It's on a sliding scale, in my opinion. As you grow in revenue and size of your company, and managing your business and things like that, you're gonna have less time, so you need to rely more on automations. But if you're small and you're just starting out, take the time to care.
Just wanted to say thank you for being here, and thank you for the awesome advices that you give us, that for the listeners as well.
Yeah, thank you, Dummy. I appreciate it. And if anybody needs help, you can always reach me at wayne@mayhemdigitalmedia.com. Or you can always find me on Facebook. I'm there all the time, and LinkedIn, and I'm literally everywhere. I'm not hard to find. So
yeah, we'll make sure to link your contact details and your website as well for anyone who wants to work with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me very, very much. It was a pleasure, and it was a blessing to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Take care.
All right, you too.
Bye bye.